My brother-in-law, Sammy, lost his home shortly after his divorce 10 months ago. He moved in with us and brought his twin daughters, Olivia and Sloane18, with him a couple of months ago. His sister, my wife, and I have one daughter, Zoey18, and she and her cousins aren't close but get along fine. Olivia and Sloane have no respect for Zoey's privacy, none. They used to walk into her room and take everything they get their hands on. Makeup, phone accessories, clothes, school laptop, etc. Zoey complained a lot, and I've already asked the girls to respect Zoey's privacy and stop taking things. My wife and Sammy saw no issue with this. After all, they're girls and this is typical teenage girls behavior. I completely disagreed. Last straw was when Zoey bought a $60 million AC makeup kit that looks like a paint set that she saved up for over a month, and one of the girls, Sloane, took it without permission and ruined it by mixing shades together while using it. Don't know much about makeup, but that's what Zoey said when she found the kit on her bed, and was crying. I told my wife and she said she'd ask Sloane to apologize, but I got Zoey a lock after I found she was moving valuable belongings out the house because of this incident. Sammy and his daughters saw the lock and weren't happy. The girls were extremely upset. Sammy asked about it and I straight up told him. He said my daughters aren't thieves. It's normal that girls of the same age borrow each other's stuff. He said Zoey could easily get another makeup kit for $15 from Walmart and shouldn't even be buying expensive adult makeup in the first place, and suggested my wife take care of this defect in Zoey's personality, trying to appear older than she is. He accused me of being overprotective and babying Zoey with this level of enablement. I told him this is between me and my wife, but she shamed me for putting a lock on Zoey's door for her cousins to see and preventing them from spending time with her, saying I was supposed to treat them like daughters, then demanded I remove it, but I said this lock does not get removed till her brother and his daughters are out of our house. She got mad I was implying we kicked them out, and said her family will hate me for this. So I reminded her that I let Sammy and his family move in, which is something her own family refused to do, so she should start with shaming and blaming them for not taking their own son and nieces and granddaughters in. If it wasn't for her family's unwillingness to help, we wouldn't be dealing with this much disturbance at home. Everyone's been giving me and Zoey silent treatment, and my wife is very much upset over this. Not the idiot. Your daughter doesn't feel like she has any privacy or respect in her own home, and you gave her a lock to give her back her privacy. You tried talking to your wife, your Bill, and your nieces, and it got you nowhere. If your daughter has to accept 3 additional adults living in her home, they need to accept her very reasonable boundaries of not taking and ruining her things. Good for you showing your daughter you respect and support her. His daughters are in fact thieves, because there's a thin line in between stealing and borrowing, and that is our bestie consent. His daughters don't ask yours for permission on whether they can take something from her or not. They help themselves into her room, into her cabinets and closet, take whatever they feel entitled to, use it however they want, even if they destroy it, and then if so, your daughter might see the object they stole from her again. You are being an amazing parent, and Zoey will forever be grateful for having her back the way a parent should. Whereas, your wife, I don't know if it's the fact that those are her brother's daughters, or if she just doesn't care about people getting through her daughter at whatever cost just to steal her property and damage it. Not the idiot. As someone who had a family friend move into our house temporarily when I was in middle school, you did the right thing. The family friend who moved in with us was only supposed to be there temporarily, until he got himself an apartment. Lived with us for 4 years. He only moved out because my parents eventually separated and divorced, while he was still living with us. So for the last 4 years that my family was a family, we had some guy, who my sister and I didn't even like, live in our home. Do yourself and your family a favor and give a timeline that they have to move out by, or you will be taken advantage of and it might ruin your marriage. I, 32, live in a house that I inherited from my grandfather. The house has a rather large yard, think 2 football fields laid out side by side. A housing subdivision has sprouted up around the house. All of the homes have small yards, so it really wasn't all that surprising when the kids started playing on the property. My grandpa always liked to watch the kids play and never had a problem with it. I never minded either. It actually got to the point where John, one of the dads in the neighborhood who I knew from high school, asked if they could put up a soccer goal. I said sure, as long as they moved it off every Wednesday when the yard guys mowed. That always went fine as well. Everything was fine until one day a guy comes to my door and tells he is the father of one of the kids, let's call him Ja, that plays in the yard. He tells me that his kid, Tommy, fell while playing soccer and broke his arm and that I needed to pay for it. I tell him he is nuts and to leave me alone. He tells me I will pay or he will sue me. I tell him to get off my porch. Sure enough, about 3 weeks later I get served that I am being sued. I call my lawyer and explain the situation. Lawyer tells me I could fight it, but that I would probably lose, and that it would be cheaper to pay it anyway. It was less than $3,000. I hated doing it, but I paid. I also called and had a fence scheduled to be put up my property, that actually cost more than the bill. I talked to a few of the neighbors I knew like John and explained what happened and that I wasn't going to let the kids play there anymore. Everyone was disappointed, but understood. Here is the part where I may have been an idiot. I put up a large sign in my yard that stated, because I have been sued by a parent for his kid tripping while playing, children are no longer allowed to play here. If you have any questions, please call Ja's name at Ja's phone number, as he is the one that sued me. Ja comes storming over and demands I take down the sign. I tell him to bite me. He goes and rips up the sign. I call the cops. I had videoed what he was doing. He left before they got there, but since I had video I had proof, so they made him go down to the police station, not in cuffs and not in a police car unfortunately. I did press charges, but he got off with a fine and he had to replace the sign. Apparently a lot of people also took me up on the idea of calling him to complain about the kids losing their place to play. He ended up changing his phone number. His house was egged twice, and let's just say there have been presents left at his front door. He was extremely unpopular with his neighbors. Unfortunately, this also extended to the other kids not wanting to play with Tommy. This came up because John just told me that Ja had put his house up for sale. Not the idiot. Frankly, I love how this turned out, minus the you getting sued part. You tried to do something nice for your neighborhood and a greedy SOB decided to take advantage of that. You took a reasonable step by removing your nice gesture and ensured everyone knew why and who caused you to have to do it. If he didn't want to be blamed for it, he shouldn't have come money grubbing. This sounds 100% justified to me. Not the idiot. Man was looking for a check and used you to get it. Putting up the fence was a good idea to prevent Ja from suing you again using his son. If he doesn't want to face the backlash of causing you to take away a nice play area for the neighborhood kids, he shouldn't have sued. You get what you get. And now his kid is being ostracized because his father decided to ruin their playtime, but at least he got his $3,000. Not the idiot. You did what you reasonably could. Frankly, I am surprised that you, as an obvious American, were willing to take the risk of the lawsuit in the first place. Your good deed did not go unpunished and I am sad for it, along with all the kids in the neighborhood. I believe you also did not really have much of a choice. It is obvious there is an idiot, and it is either you, who decided to no longer allow the kids over, or it is someone else. The neighbors would have defaulted to you. Good for you for pointing out the real culprit. Let him suffer the consequences. I, 26, have a cousin, 21, let's call her Jane, not her real name, who I've been very close to growing up. She is a ridiculously picky eater. I think it's a result of her being very coddled and kinda spoiled. She straight up refuses to eat any fruits or vegetables, no fresh herbs, no mushrooms or legumes. Only meat, rice, pasta and potatoes. This has stopped her from being able to go to most restaurants and travel, because she doesn't trust that the meals wouldn't have vegetables hidden in them. When she visited us, we always had to buy extra foods for her. Now cue to my wedding, which is already planned and paid for, but had to be postponed due to COVID. Both me and my fiancé are vegetarians, so our menu is vegetarian and every meal offered contains vegetables or legumes. Even our wedding cake has berries in it. I haven't done this on purpose. I've been living away from home for years, so I totally forgot about Jane's picky eating and didn't expect her to carry this into adulthood. I sent the wedding menu to my mom and she's shown it to my aunt, Jane's mom. Straight away I got a call from aunt, asking if that is the final menu and how we are going to be accommodating Jane's preferences. I was a little taken aback and offered her some ideas, but she turned all of them down. So I gave up and said that unless Jane is okay with just some roasted potatoes, I frankly don't know. My aunt proceeded to grill me, saying that it's really disrespectful towards their family and that I should be able to serve her some meat. I got ticked and told her that her demand is ridiculous, especially since this isn't due to allergy, but because of picky eating, and hung up. A lot of relatives are heavy meat eaters and nothing would stop them from demanding meat if they saw someone else getting it. Also, we just don't want to be serving meat on our wedding that we pay for ourselves. My parents and partner are on my side, but some friends said I should have figured something out and that it's selfish to not care about Jane's comfort at my wedding. I tried to talk to Jane, but she had pretty much the same attitude as her mom, turned down ideas and said that it's just the way she is. I have been very puzzled, because I like Jane, but at the same time I think it's ridiculous. So would I be the idiot if I just kept my wedding menu as it is and cause that she will be able to only eat potatoes? Update: this got way bigger than I thought it would. I got a lot of messages and I'm thankful for everyone who took the time in their day to respond. There have been a few recurring comments. First is that my cousin might have an eating disorder or another psychological label. While I do think this is very possible, it is not my call to make. There is also a recurring question about us not serving meat to meat eaters. Guests know we are veggies and don't care, and I'm sure they will enjoy their meal, but yeah, if you put a fat steak in front of my 50-year-old father, he would choose that over a veggie meal. We don't care if people eat meat, but we don't wish to contribute our hard-earned money towards this industry. Thanks to people who gave me suggestions. There are things I didn't think about, like pasta alfredo or jacket potatoes, since these are not things we eat in this country, so they didn't come to mind. I will suggest these to her. If not, I'll just keep my menu the way it is and she can bring her own meal or grab some on the way. I'd prefer my close family to not be annoyed on my wedding day, but there's only so much I'm willing to do. Not the idiot. She doesn't have allergies, she has preferences. Someone who's that picky is surely used to bringing her own food places. If she chooses to pack granola bars in her purse, don't say anything. But you can't accommodate everyone's preferences. And no offense, she's a cousin, not one of your parents. The only suggestion I'd be willing to make is if your venue offers a kid's meal that allow her to have. Typically those are chicken fingers and fries or something. If she chooses not to attend, don't worry. Post amazing pictures of your wedding and let her be jealous. You don't change your menu for one person. I am a very fussy eater, to the point that I annoy myself sometimes. I don't know how I've ended up like this, but that's a different story. But I accept that this is my problem. It's not someone else's responsibility to accommodate my pickiness. If it was an allergy, I'd probably hope maybe they could try, but I fully acknowledge that I am painful and always try make a point to tell people to do what their plans are and I'll sort myself out. I plan around it. I'll eat big meals beforehand, or bring snacks or protein bars to be safe. Either way, it's my responsibility to accommodate my weirdness, no one else's. It's her responsibility to accommodate hers, not yours. She can swing by a McDonald's in between the ceremony and the reception and eat in the car. We did this for my toddler at a wedding where I knew they wouldn't serve anything he'd like. Of course, he was not quite 2 years old instead of a grown woman, but it's still an option. If she loves you and wants to be there on your wedding day and she refuses to try new food, then she doesn't have to eat at your wedding. No big deal. Bit of backstory: my brother and I are very close, his wife and I not so much. We've had our fair share of tension. Anyway, I fell sick in the middle of May, but held off getting checked out because of COVID and safety reasons. Eventually, when June started, I decided to go check it out. Turns out it was stage 2 breast cancer. I decided to tell my family 2 days ago since lockdown laws have been lifted, so I invited everyone over, and when I told my brother and his wife, he said okay, that's fine, because he has news to share too. So our family gathered and my brother decided to go first. He did ask me, and he announced that his wife is 4 months pregnant. Of course everyone was overjoyed. After about an hour they asked about my news, and I knew this was probably the last time in a long while before I had everyone here in person, so I told them. And of course the initial joyous atmosphere was gone. The rest of the evening was a lot of support for me and not a lot of attention on my brother and his wife. My brother didn't seem to mind this, as he was quite distraught with my news, but I saw his wife pretty upset and cornered off. So I decided to approach her, and I apologized for the timing of it all. She told me I could have waited a bit and Skyped everyone with the news, as it's just stage 2, and let my brother and her have this moment with their family. I told her I initially called this meeting for this exact reason, and she said she knows, but I knew my news would damper everyone's mood. So I told her she's being ridiculous and I wanted to tell my family in person, since they are my family after all. And she burst in tears and demanded to go home, which my brother obliged to even though he was confused. He promised he would come see me soon since he stays close by to me. Later that evening I get a message from him asking if I told his wife that she isn't part of the family and that I deliberately wanted the attention on me, because that's what she's upset about. Also, the next day my parents called me to check up on me and my mom mentioned that my brother's wife called yesterday evening really upset, telling them what I said and claiming I'm jealous because she's pregnant and I'm trying to ruin her life. I told my parents what actually happened and what I really said, and it's caused not only tension between his wife and me, but my parents and her too, and now she's also blaming me for my parents not being her biggest fans. My brother is torn but has been trying to talk to her, which results in more tears and a strain in their marriage. All this drama is making me think that I should have just called up everyone rather, or just told my brother that his news had to wait, even though that would have been selfish of me. I really wanted my family's support that day, but I'm starting to rethink whether it was worth all this drama and potentially causing further problems. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You discussed sharing news at the same gathering prior to it. There's no way anyone would have known that your news is that you have cancer. If you and your sis-in-law never got along, she is probably upset because of that. She's being selfish, and hormonal prob, it's not like you decided to get sick at the same time that she's pregnant. Also, grandparents or to-be grandparents tend to want to keep the carrier of their grandbabies happy, so that could be why it seems like they on her side. I'm sorry for this, but it will all pass. If this was a meeting your brother, your parents, or anyone else called, then you would be the idiot. However, you called this meeting, and your brother and sister-in-law decided to take the moment away from you, not to mention making the moment awkward, by sharing their own news. Your sister-in-law is also being a dramatic idiot by claiming that your diagnosis is ruining her life. Congratulate your brother on becoming a father and tell his wife to pound sand. I wish you the best of luck in your recovery. I'm so sorry for what you are going through. And here's the thing, you need support. Your Sil doesn't at the moment. She could have called another get-together in a week and announced. The fact that she's lying about what you said to make herself look better means she knows she was wrong. If you were honest about what was said, then it's not your fault if people get upset with her. If your Sil doesn't want people to think she's a heartless douche, she shouldn't act like one.